The Bible Half Hour. Everybody knows the aim. It's all about Jesus. It's all about church. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another Monday. Let's go. We're on Genesis chapter 19 and it is all going down. So this day, may we think, may we speak, and may we feel in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Chapter 14 of Genesis 19. Welcome in. What is up, Ellen? What is up, Neil? What is up, Angela? What is up, Ricky Bad Boy B? So Lot went out and spoke to his son-in-law, who were pledged, sons-in-law, who were pledged to marry his daughters. He said, "Hurry and get out of this place, because the Lord is about to destroy the city." But his sons-in-law thought he was joking. With the coming of dawn, the angels urged Lot, saying, "Hurry, take your wife and your two daughters who are here, or you will be swept away when the city is punished." When he hesitated, the men grasped his hand and the hands of his wife and his two daughters, and led them safely out of the city, for the Lord was merciful to them. As soon as they had brought them out, one of them said, "Flee for your lives. Don't look back. Don't stop anywhere in the plain. Flee to the mountains, or you will be swept away." But Lot said to them, "No, my lords, please, your servant has found favor in your eyes, and you have shown great kindness to me in sparing my life, but I can't flee to the mountains. This disaster will overtake me and I'll die. Look, here is a town near enough to run to, and it is small. Let me flee to it." "It is very small, isn't it? Then my life will be spared." He said to him, "Very well, I will grant this request too. I will not overthrow the town you speak of. But flee there quickly, because I cannot do anything until you reach it." And that is why the town was called Zoar. I think a church in our denomination called Zoar just closed recently. By the time Lot reached Zoar, the sun had risen over the land. Then the Lord rained down burning sulfur on Sodom and Gomorrah from the Lord out of the heavens. Any Muslims in the room, welcome. Your prophets did not preach a Unitarian God. Your prophets, Moses, believed there were at least two members of this lordhood. One on the ground, calling down judgment, from one in the heavens. Christians like to say this is the second member of the Trinity. That's not in the Bible, that term, but they like to say it more than they like to say Jesus for some reason. Other people like to say it's a pre-incarnate, theophanific Christ. Well, Jude in the New Testament just calls it Jesus. Jesus judges. So if everybody says the New Testament is full of grace and peace and kindness, I don't like that Old Testament God, you remind them of all these passages we're about to see where it's the Son of God who's doing the judging. He's always taken sin very seriously, even before he was born of Mary. He wrote the book of Leviticus and all the laws against sin. He was there when they lived it out. Okay, he oversaw the writing of the book of Leviticus, and he was there. Thus he overthrew those cities and the entire plain, destroying all those living in the cities, and also the vegetation in the land. But Lot's wife looked back, and she became a pillar of salt. And even in the New Testament, Jesus just lines everybody up and says, "I will be the one. All judgment has been committed to me. I'll be the one doing it. I'll be separating wolves and lambs." Early the next morning, Abraham got up and returned to the place where he had stood before the Lord. He looked down towards Sodom and Gomorrah, towards all the land of the plain, and he saw dense smoke rising from the land like smoke from a furnace. So when God destroyed the cities of the plain, he remembered Abraham, and he brought Lot out of the catastrophe that overthrew the cities where Lot had lived. Lot and his 2 daughters left Zoar and settled in the mountains, for he was afraid to stay in Zoar. He and his 2 daughters lived in a cave. One day the elder daughter said to the younger, "Our father is old, and there is no man around here to give us children, as is the custom all over the earth. Let's give our father to drink wine and then sleep with him and preserve our family line through our father." By the way, in both testaments, the church is somewhat like an episode of EastEnders. So if you're in a church today and it's full of massive headache and strained relationships, welcome to church. We don't win because of us, we win because of Jesus. That night they got their father to drink wine, and the elder daughter went in and slept with him. He was not aware of it when she lay down or when she got up. Some of my friends in the area, they go, "Oh, Owen, must be nice just turning up on a Sunday morning and sharing Werther's Originals with all the old biddies." I'm like, dude, you do not have a clue about what church is. Also, I don't like Werther's Originals. The next day, the elder daughter said to the younger, "Last night I slept with my father. Let's get him to drink wine again tonight, and you go in and sleep with him, and we can preserve our family line through our father." So they got their father to drink wine that night also, when the younger daughter went in and slept with him. Again, he was not aware of it when she lay down or when she got up. So both of Lot's daughters, he must have been blottoed. So both of Lot's daughters became pregnant by their father. Their daughter had a son, and she named him Moab. Remember that? He is the father of the Moabites today. The young daughter also had a son, and she named him Ben-Ami. He is the father of the Ammonites today. Going to see a lot of those pesky Moabites, so remember that. They sort of came from a Christianish family. Now Abraham moved on from there into the region of the Negev and lived between Kadesh and Shur. For a while he stayed in Gerar, and there Abraham said of his wife Sarah, "She is my sister." Then Abimelech, king of Gerar, sent for Sarah and took her. But God came to Abimelech in a dream one night and said to him, "You are as good as dead because of the woman you have taken. She is a married woman." The English is so funny, like these modern English versions, and how they try and break into the original words and the way the sentences they come up with. For us modern readers, she is as good as dead. Now Abimelech had not gone near her, so he said, "Lord, will you destroy an innocent nation? Did he not say to me, 'She is my sister'? And didn't she also say, 'He is my brother'? I have done this with a clear conscience and clean hands." Then God said to him in the dream, "Yes, I know you did this with a clear conscience, and so I have kept you from sinning against me. That is why I did not let you touch her. Now return the man's wife, for he is a prophet, and he will pray for you and you will live. But if you do not return her, you may be sure that you and all who belong to you will die." Early the next morning, Abimelech summoned all of his officials, and when he told them all that had happened, they were very much afraid. Then Abimelech called Abraham in and said, "What have you done to us? How have I wronged you that you have brought such great guilt upon me and my kingdom? You have done things to me that should never be done." And Abimelech asked Abraham, "What is your reason for doing this?" Abraham replied, I said to myself, there is surely no fear of God in this place, and they will kill me because of my wife. Besides, she really is my sister, the daughter of my father, though not of my mother, and she became my wife. And when God calls me to wander from my father's household, I said to her, this is how you can show your love to me. Everywhere we go, say of me, he's my brother. Then Abimelech brought sheep and cattle and male and female slaves and gave them to Abraham. And he returned Sarah, his wife, to him. And Abimelech said, isn't like women are just commodities? I'll have that one. No, actually, I'll give that one back. Too much baggage with that one. Like, the Bible doesn't shy away from how these cultures viewed women. And Abimelech said, my land is before you, live wherever you like. To Sarah he said, I'm giving your brother 1,000 shekels of silver. This is to cover the offense against you before all who are with you. You are completely vindicated. Then Abraham prayed to God, and God healed Abimelech, his wife, and his female slaves so that they could have children again. For the Lord had kept all the women in Abimelech's household from conceiving because of Abraham's wife, Sarah. Don't forget, anybody questions, anything that strikes you, do dump it in the comments as we go through. But I appreciate most of you are getting dressed. Famous chapter here, chapter 21 of Genesis. Now the Lord was gracious to Sarah, and as he had said, and the Lord did for Sarah what he had promised. Sarah became pregnant and bore a son to Abraham in his old age, at the very time God had promised him. So he's sort of more of the child of the promise. That's how the Bible uses this coming baby, because the other child, if you remember, they sort of stepped out of God's will and tried to rush it and force it rather than trusting. So that's like a child of human works. Whereas this next one, it's a bit more of like well, you know what I'm trying to say. Abraham gave the name Isaac to the son Sarah bore him. When his son Isaac was 8 days old, Abraham circumcised him, as God commanded him. Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born to him. It's a miracle, everybody. Sarah said, God has brought me laughter, and everyone who hears about this will laugh with me. And she added, who would have said to Abraham that Sarah would nurse children? Yet I have borne him a son in his old age. And you can see what this name means. If I click this little button here, Isaac means he laughs. Oh, I didn't think it did mean that. I thought it meant son of laughter. The child grew and was weaned, and on the day Isaac was weaned, Abraham held a great feast. But Sarah saw that the son whom Hagar the Egyptian had borne to Abraham was mocking. And she said to Abraham, get rid of that slave woman and her son, for that woman's son will never share in the inheritance with my son, Isaac. The matter distressed Abraham greatly because it concerned his son. But God said to him, do not be distressed about the boy and your slave woman. Listen to whatever Sarah tells you, because it is through Isaac that your offspring will be reckoned. I will make the son of the slave into a nation also, because he is your offspring. Pretty much the Arab nation that it comes from Hagar and Ishmael. So they say. Early the next morning, Abraham took some food and a skin of water and gave them to Hagar. He set them on her shoulders and then sent her off with the boy. She went on her way and wandered in the desert of Beersheba. When the water in the skin had gone, she put the boy under one of the bushes. Then she went off and sat down about a bow shot away, for she thought, I cannot watch the boy die. And as she sat there, she began to sob. God heard the boy crying, and the angel of God called to Hagar from heaven and said to her, "What is the matter, Hagar? Do not be afraid. God has heard the boy crying, and as he lies there. Lift the boy up and take him by the hand, for I will make him into a great nation." Then God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water. So she went and filled the skin with water and gave the boy a drink. This, by the way, is the same angel that had been interacting with her a few chapters ago, and she said, this is my Lord, and he sees me. He's God, and he sees me. Now this same angel is up in the sky, and he's actually about to say some very moving things about Abraham and Isaac. If memory serves me right, God was with the boy as he grew up. He lived in the desert and became an archer. While he was living in the desert of Paran, his mother got a wife for him from Egypt. At that time, Abimelech and Phicol, the commander of his forces, said to Abraham, "God is with you in everything you do. Now swear to me here before God that you will not deal falsely with me or my children or my descendants. Show me and the country where you now reside as a foreigner the same kindness that I have shown you." Abraham said, "I swear it." Then Abraham complained to Abimelech about a well of water that Abimelech's servants had seized. But Abimelech said, "I don't know who has done this. You did not tell me, and I heard about it only today." So Abraham brought sheep and cattle and gave them to Abimelech, and the two men made a treaty. Abraham set apart 7 ewe lambs from the flock, and Abimelech asked Abraham, "What is the meaning of these 7 ewe lambs you have set apart by themselves?" He replied, "Accept these 7 lambs from my hand as a witness that I dug this well." So that place was called Beersheba, because the two men swore an oath there. Remember Beersheba? Why is that got a thing by it? Beersheba can mean well of 7 or well of the oath. A few things are going to happen in Beersheba in these books coming up. After the treaty had been made at Beersheba, Abimelech and Phicol, the commander of his forces, returned to the land of the Philistines. Abraham planted a tamarisk tree in Beersheba, and there he called on the name of the Lord, the eternal God. And Abraham stayed in the land of the Philistines for a long time. In Genesis 15, Abraham is justified by his faith in this angel God. In Genesis 22, he's about to show that he's a messianic man, a Christos man, a Christian, a true Israelite. All of the above. Because if you're a Christian, it shows. And Romans picks up on this about his faith is justified and stuff like this. Sometime later, God tested Abraham. He said to him, "Abraham." "Here I am," he replied. Then God said, "Take your son, your only son, whom you love, Isaac, and go to the region of Moriah. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on a mountain that I will show you." Moriah. In the not too distant future, everybody, there will be a temple built a few hundred years later on this mount. It is also the mount where the Lord Jesus was crucified. So have that in mind with this story. Or rather, have this story in mind when you get to the bits about the crucifixion. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on a mountain that I will show you. Early the next morning, Abraham got up and loaded his donkey. He took with him 2 of his servants and his son Isaac. When he had cut enough wood for the burnt offering, he set out for the place God had told him about. On the 3rd day, that's a recurrent phrase in the scriptures. usually means, the writers usually do that for like, well, this is going to be a day of new life or hope. Quiz time today. What happens on third days in the Bible? Something for you to think about on your lunch break. Abraham looked up and saw the place in the distance. He said to his servants, "Stay here with the donkey while I and the boy go over there. We will worship and then we will come back to you." That is a very, very, very interesting statement for someone to make who's just been told you're going to sacrifice your own son on a mountain. Resurrection hope on the third day. Abraham thinks they're both coming back even though he's been told to sacrifice his son. Hebrews runs with this one. Chapter 11 says he knew that God is a God of resurrection. He knew this story is about a lesson about resurrection hope. The people knew God as a resurrection God, even back then. Abraham took the wood for the burnt offering and placed it on his son Isaac. And he himself carried the fire and the knife. As the two of them went on together, Isaac spoke up and said to his father Abraham, "Father?" "Yes, my son," Abraham replied. "The fire and wood are here," Isaac said, "but where is the lamb for the burnt offering?" Abraham answered, "God himself will provide the lamb for the burnt offering, my son." And the two of them went on together. Now, you got Mount Calvary in your minds there, everybody? What do you learn about Jesus and what do you learn about church? Everybody knows the aim. When they reached the place God had told him about, Abraham built an altar there and arranged the wood on it. He bound his son Isaac and laid him on the altar on top of the wood. Then he reached out his hand and took the knife to slay his son. But the angel of the Lord called out from heaven and said, "Abraham, Abraham." "Here I am," he said. "Do not lay a hand on the boy," he said. "Do not do anything to him. Now I know that you fear God, because you have not withheld from me your son, your only son." So here's this angel. He's been called God all through Genesis. I find this very moving because he would know that this is the very same spot that in the future God will provide him as a lamb for sinners. This is like a dress rehearsal. Obviously, he stops it. Because he's got to do this. "Do not lay a hand on the boy. I know that you fear God." 13, Abraham looked up, and there in the thicket he saw a ram caught by its thorns. He went over and took the ram and sacrificed it as a burnt offering instead of his son. So Abraham called that place, "The Lord will provide." Imagine getting to the New Testament and reading about the cross and reading about Jesus calling himself the Lamb and not knowing the Old Testament. You're barely scratching the surface. And to this day it is said, "On the mountain of the Lord it will be provided." Surely Genesis 22 is up there in the best chapters in the Bible. The angel of the Lord called to Abraham from heaven a second time and said, "I swear by myself, declares the Lord, that because you have done this and have not withheld your son, your only son, I will surely bless you and make your descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky and as the sand on the seashore." This entire Bible is about a lamb who's been slain to win his bride a land. Over and over again, we see the same story in different forms. "Your descendants will take possession of the cities of their enemies, and through your offspring all nations on earth will be blessed because you have obeyed me." Then Abraham returned to his servants, and they set off together for Beersheba, and Abraham stayed in Beersheba. Sometime later, Abraham was told, Milcah is also a mother. She has borne sons to your brother Nahor. Uz, the firstborn, Buz, his brother, Kemuel, the father of Aram, Kesed, Hazo, Pildash, Jidlaph, and Bethuel. Bethuel became the father of Rebekah. Milcah bore these 8 sons to Abraham's brother Nahor, his concubine, whose name was Reumah, also had sons, Tabor, Gaim, Tash, and Maacah. Genesis 23. Sarah lived to be 127 years old. She died at Kiriath Arba, that is, Hebron, in the land of Canaan. And Abraham went to mourn for Sarah and to weep over her. Remember Hebron? Then Abraham rose from beside his dead wife and spoke to the Hittites. He said, I am a foreigner and stranger among you. Sell me some property for a burial site here, so that I can bury my dead. The Hittites replied to Abraham, Sir, listen to us. You are a mighty prince among us. Bury your dead in the choicest of our tombs. None of us will refuse you his tomb for burying your dead. Then Abraham rose and bowed down before the people of the land, the Hittites. He said to them, If you are willing to let me bury my dead, then listen to me and intercede with Ephron, son of Zohar, on my behalf, so that he will sell me the cave of Machpelah, which belongs to him and is at the end of his field. Ask him to sell it to me for the full price as a burial site among you. Hebrews says, basically, Abraham only ever had a tiny little patch, this cave, not much more, on the promised land. But he fully knew that the land was all his, because he knew the land was a picture of the heavens. And it said he didn't really hang around on the earthly land too long, because he knew more about the picture that it was pointing towards, the heavenly land. Ephron the Hittite was sitting among his people, and he replied to Abraham in the hearing of all the Hittites who had come to the gate of his city, No, my lord, he said, listen to me. I give you the field, and I give you the cave that is in it. I give to you the presence of my people. Bury your dead. We like Ephron the Hittite, sort of. Again, Abraham bowed down before the people of the land, and he said to Ephron in their hearing, Listen to me, if you will. I will pay the price of the field. Accept it from me, so that I can bury my dead there. Ephron answered Abraham, Listen to me, my lord. The land is worth 400 shekels of silver, but what is that between you and me? Bury your dead. Abraham agreed to Ephron's terms and weighed out for him the price he had named in the hearing of the Hittites, 400 shekels of silver, according to the weight current among the merchants. So Ephron's field in Machpelah near Mamre, both the field and the cave in it, and all the trees within the borders of the field, was legally made over to Abraham as his property in the presence of all the Hittites who had come to the gate of the city. Afterwards Abraham buried his wife Sarah in the cave in the field of Machpelah near Mamre, which is at Hebron, in the land of Canaan. So the field and the cave in it were legally made over to Abraham by the Hittites as a burial site. Genesis 24, Abraham now was very old, and the Lord had blessed him in every way. He said to the senior servant in his house, the one in charge of all that he had, Put your hand under my thigh. I want you to swear by the Lord, the God of heaven and the God of earth, that you will not get a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites, among whom I am living, but will go to my country and my own relatives and get a wife for my son Isaac. The servant asked him, What if the woman is unwilling to come back with me to this land? Shall I then take your son back to the country you came from? And on that question we will end. Abraham seems to think it's very important that this faith of ours is shared among his offspring. Don't be getting no pagans. Don't do that. That will cause a lot of marital headaches. One worshipping a giant phallic statue in the kitchen, and one worshipping the divine angel of the Lord. That's going to cause some headaches around the dinner table. But on that note, may you be blessed this day. We have learned a lot, particularly about the Son of God, the angel of the Lord, in these chapters. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, have a lovely day. God willing, we'll be back tomorrow.